All right. It's the Final Word Daily for the final time in this first test at Galle between Sri Lanka and Australia. Adam Collins, Bharat Sundaresan with you back on the roof. We're back here for CBUS Super celebrating, I was going to say celebrating their 40th birthday. That was last year. Like with me, I don't get to celebrate my 40th birthday
What are you doing?
in 2025 because it was in 2024.
That's correct.
But it will mean that they'll be into their 41st year. That's all that matters. 8.87 annual return, building the country, working people. Sort your super out in 2025.
You know, I haven't
Performance on a reliable indicator of future performance.
I haven't sorted my super out, but I am turning 40 in a few months' time. So
Yeah.
what we're going to do is we're going to celebrate 40 together.
Oh,
We're going to
can do
celebrate
it.
it together. And
we can do it.
while we're doing it, we'll fix my super as well. How about that?
Perfect. Baz, that's who one of the people our show's brought to you by. The other, won't be great suspense. We do this every day. What we also do every day is sum the play up in 30 seconds,
Oh,
which you
wow.
will do here, given there were a lot of wickets. It might be tough, but try anyway. Go quick.
Let's go. 15 wickets fell today as Sri Lanka crumbled and they collapsed against mighty Australia, who bowled well, but didn't have to try too hard because Sri Lanka just played it into their hands. Dinesh Chandimal was out twice in the same session, and all Australia needed in the second session was 7 wickets off Sri Lanka's second innings, and they just rolled them out. Matt Kuhnemann, 9 wickets, Nathan Lyon, wickets as well. Wickets for everyone. Wickets for you, wickets for me. And Australia with the most comprehensive test win I've ever seen in the subcontinent, and Sri Lanka with their worst test defeat of all time.
Yeah, Australia's fourth biggest victory when you calculate it by innings. An innings and 242. They've never won by that many runs and wickets. You know what I mean? Innings analysis in Asia. They've won by bigger margins 3 times, but all elsewhere. So that gives some historic sense of the scale of the defeat. Nathan Lyon this morning, I spoke with him before play, and it was like, well, 15 wickets to go, and it's like, yeah. Who knows? You know, he didn't say it in as many words, but like, it could be any number of ways that could be cup in a pond, including. I thought Australia batting a second time, you couldn't completely rule out when we got here today, so long as Chandimal batted well. And for about 20 minutes, it did look that way. Kusal Mendis and Dinesh Chandimal picked up from yesterday after the day of rain and looked pretty bloody good and Bryce McGain set this up really nicely on our radio commentary. They set back that square leg Todd Murphy about half to 2/3 of the way to the rope. It's an unorthodox position. No one puts a square leg there, but they desperately wanted Kusal Mendis sweeping against Kuhnemann, and when he did, the first one was unconvincing, and the second one went straight to Todd Murphy, and that opened the floodgates. 5 for 9 was the collapse inside 5 overs. Kuhnemann went, got 3 of those to complete a 5-wicket bag, and Nathan Lyon picked up the other 2, and suddenly Sri Lanka were all out 165, and they were obviously immediately following on.
And from that point on, all we cared about was will Dinesh Chandimal get out a second time in the same session. And the only reason he gave himself the best chance to get out twice in the same session was because of how well he batted in that first innings.
That's right.
And you're right. I mean, while him and Kusal Mendis were bad together in that first innings, which also happened on the same day as the second innings, so it's a little confusing. 15 of them were out. Not
Twice
15
on the
of
same
them.
day.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
5 of them, yeah.
5 of them,
Yeah.
correct. That's not 15 of them. That would have been a lot of wickets. It felt like 30 wickets fell today. There were wickets every time, wherever you looked. And they looked in control. And it's an interesting pitch, this one, because every time I spoke to Uzi down there after the presentation, and he said that it was not the easiest pitch to bat on from the beginning. It was slow turn, but it kept turning. And Steve Smith said the same in the press conference, or maybe it was when he was speaking to me. After the first 10 overs, it was a pitch which kept turning. And Jeffrey Van Der Say's first ball to Manas, and we raved about on day 1. And so Australia just found a way to make 654, and then their spinners came into play. But still there was periods, very small periods during Sri Lanka's innings, first and second, where it looked like they could kind of build a partnership. But then they would just throw their wicket away. It was, that question always gets asked on days like this, right? Was it Australia who were too good, or was it Sri Lanka who were too bad? I'm going to lean more towards Sri Lanka being terrible with the bat. It was just some shoddy batting, and even the likes of Angelo Matthews walking out there and just constantly playing the reverse sweep, almost giving the feeling to anyone watching that this was an unplayable pitch and it was a lottery pitch. Well, it wasn't.
No, far from it. So Chandimal was the second wicket to fall this morning, out for 72. Leg before wicket, reversing at line and missing. And then the tail fell away. It was a very, very long tail. If Prabhav Jayasuriya is batting 8, you've got a problem. Yeah, it is a problem. It's a symptom of the way they set up at the moment. All out 247 the second time, so they showed more resistance. Jeffrey Van der Sey, 53, was the last man to fall, and I'm glad he managed to get that personal milestone because he put genuine pride on his performance throughout the course of the 4 days. He didn't have much of an involvement yesterday, but the days 1, 2 and 4, I feel like he was someone who was making the very most of being a test cricketer for the second time, and good on him for that. But yeah, you go down the list. Chandimal out on the stroke of lunch, gloving one from line, which was reviewed by Smith and Head. They did well there. Karunaratne was the second wicket to fall after they got sent back in a second time. So they were 2 for 6, which meant that at one point they'd lost 7 for 15. 7 for 15 across 2 innings. Ashada had his front pad blown off by Stark and reviewed it unnecessarily. The Karunaratne leave. I just want to give a big pat on the bum to Todd Murphy there. It's his only wicket in the Test match, and he'll be the one guy sitting down in the dressing room tonight who hasn't really had a chance to make a big contribution there from the bowling group because Stark's wickets felt so important when they came. But that wicket, that Karunaratne wicket, was a very similar setup to the one that got Ravindra Jadeja on his Test debut at Nagpur. I remember you and I were on commentary together at the time, and we were raving about just how clever that setup was with the straight ball. So Murphy will have other days where he bowls just as well as this and ends up the one cleaning up rather than Kuhnemann and Lyon as it was today.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I wouldn't call him the third spinner, but he did bowl the fewer number of overs compared to Nathan Lyon and Matthew Kuhnemann. And credit to Steve Smith, he used all 3 spinners in tandem. Nobody got a long spell from either end. He was having fun, and we'll talk about Steve Smith's captaincy for sure. But I thought Todd Murphy's bowling in the first innings, he easily could have got a couple of wickets, but it just didn't happen for him. And then I thought the other spinners made the most of it. So he set them up. He never let the pressure off. Unlike the other Sri Lankan spinners, Nishan Perez, for example, every time he came on to bowl, batting looked easy. Batting never looked easy when Todd Murphy was bowling. So credit to him, and he got the new ball as well in the second innings and made the most of it. 6 balls in the first over and then getting Karunaratne out with the 7th ball in his second over. So I think credit to all 3, and I can already and that was my column as well, which I just finished writing, Adam, about looking ahead to India. And 2 years on the cricketing calendar go very quickly. And this is it. I mean, this will be the trio you can imagine playing most of those 5 Test matches. Hopefully no injury scare or no injury issues between now and then. And Nathan Lyon has said clearly he wants to keep on playing till 2027 at least. And now with these 2 alongside him, he'll be energized to definitely go to India, knowing that they could beat India at their own game.
Yeah, and he's always taken great pride in the progress of Murphy and Kuhnemann. Going back to the way that he raved about them in India last year, neither of them possess a threat to him in the time that he'll be an Australian Test cricketer. So it's, in some respects, for him anyway, about having 2 guys that can go with him to India. I think you're bang on. This is the dress rehearsal. It's more than that, of course. It's a Test series in its own right. But owing to the fact that Australia have already sewn up their spot in the World Test Championship final, cricket's the kind of sport where you have to do your medium-term planning whilst you're doing your current thing. You can't just decide to, if it's not now, then when do you do your planning? You have to sort of walk and chew gum, and so it applies here. So, it won't be the whole top 6 going around in India in 2027. You can be fairly certain that there'll be at least a couple of retirements between now and then, but they'll know exactly what their spin trio looks like, as you point out before, provided injuries don't get in the way. And that's a big plus in that column, and they'll want to continue that next week. And Kuhnemann getting another 5-wicket bag. He picked up one at indoor, 5 for 16 in fairly unusual circumstances, in a pitch that was shooting through, in a pitch that was a shit heap. This was not that. This was a different kind of fifer. 5 for 63 in the first dig, and 4 in the second. And just to zero in on a couple of those dismissals, the Kamindu one. So Kamindu after lunch came out and looked $1 million. He was providing a very quick catcher-upper to anyone who hasn't seen him play through the course of 2024, when he made over 1,000 Test runs in 16 innings and was the 3rd fastest ever to 1,000 Test runs. And his first 4 Test innings brought 419 runs, equal most ever with Javed Miandad. So this guy's got serious pedigree, and he was playing that way. He hit Kuhnemann over long on for a biggie, and then Kuhnemann had to adjust, and we had a really nice split screen on television where you saw the way that he was able to slow his pace down in the same part of the pitch and generate some more dip in the process, and that prompted the error with Kimindu holding out. So it may not look like it, caught it long on, but it was a classic fingered spinner's dismissal.
Oh yeah, and even the couple of other wickets, the stumpings he got off his bowling. And look, I spoke about this earlier. I interviewed him 3 days before the Galle test, and firstly, one of the loveliest young men you'll meet. Like, he's just got something very affable about him. And he spoke about how much he's been checking on that baggy green, more than even his passport, he said, every 10 minutes while he traveled with it. This is his first international trip with this baggy green, don't forget. Because you don't get to travel with it before you become a test cricketer, before you receive it. So he made sure it was in good condition. But the dirt marks from Indore were still on his baggy green because he kept rubbing his hands on the ground. And I'm sure there'll be some Galle dust as well on that baggy green right now. But there would have been so much pressure on him. Imagine, Adam, yes, they wanted him to be fit. And like Steve Smith said in the press conference, it's not a surgeon, but a magician it must have taken to fix his thumb. And credit to him as well. He was, he was a battler, and he fought through the pain to be ready for this test match. But then coming into the test match, left-arm spinners in these conditions, you are the ones who are supposed to provide the early breakthroughs, bowl with the new ball. And from the moment he took that wicket in his first over 2 days back of Oshara Fernando, he didn't look back. Every time the Sri Lankans went after him, he found a way of getting them out, like he did with Kamindu Mendes, and also later on with Dhananjaya De Silva.
Yeah, I mean, that dismissal of Dhananjaya De Silva, so he plonks Kuhnemann over long off, and that's a tough shot to play. And the next ball, he couldn't help himself but doing it again. So a couple of occasions where Kuhnemann made subtle adjustments and it brought him wickets almost straight away. So classy bowling there. Dhananjaya, who got to 41, as did Angelo Matthews, Kimindu 32, Chandimal 31. So you got a bit of a story there of players getting starts and unable to go on with it. Prabhav Jayasuriya's dismissal kind of summed up the way the whole thing fell away. A shocking swipe across the line at Nathan Lyon. He bowled him. He was on a hat-trick at one point. Lyon had Kusal Mendes stumped with the straight ball. Credit to Lyon for not only developing that straighter one that goes straight on a number of years ago now, but able to deploy it at the perfect times. On that occasion, it was Kusal Mendes looking to find a single from the last ball of the over, and that's why Lyon bowled it to him to try and bring the outside edge into play, and Carey got there in the end. He kind of took a chest mark and got the stumping down, which I think was his fourth of the test match. So well done, Alex Carey, on that front. So second innings, 4 for Lyon at this ground that he's taken his test wickets at 25 or 26 or something like that. Holds such precious memories for him. 4 more for Kuhnemann to make 9 for the match, and Australia finished with a record-breaking margin. So yes, they're biggest in Asia, which says a bit.
The only thing Nathan Lyon didn't get right was that hat-trick ball. That was a pretty ordinary hat-trick ball. You have a tail-ender like Nishan Paris out there, left-hander. It was just short and wide, and I think you could see it on his face. But yeah, I mean, he was, he led the attack. I mean, you spoke about him earlier. Todd Murphy said in an interview recently that Nathan Lyon wants to leave spin bowling better than it was before he came on board. So,
that's right.
And it means a lot to Nathan Lyon, and he wants these youngsters to develop under his learning tree, so that they're ready when it is eventually time for him to go, and they can just take over the mantle. They already look ready, but I don't think they'll mind waiting 2 more years. And just on that Prabhat Jayasuriya shot, a shout out to poor Sanat Jayasuriya as well, who did the press conference, and you felt for him. Imagine when he was at the top of his game, and the way Sri Lankan batters, that team, that era would dominate spinners, whether it was Shane Warne or Anil Kumble or whoever else who came to these shores. So he would have, and he kept talking about, it was in English and Sinhalese, but you could see he felt bad for him. He spoke about bat shot selection and how test cricket is not easy. You have to make big hundreds. Look at what Inglis did. Look at what Khawaja did. And Sadi, the legendary Sri Lankan journalist who's been around forever, he asked him about the long tail. And just looking at Sanat Jayasuriya going, but Sadi, we have to play 7 batters and we have to play 4 bowlers. No, what can we do if they can't bat? And he just wanted to go and give him a little cuddle. Felt bad for Sanat. He's had a good run so far as coach, but from what I've heard, he is someone who can get these guys back up, and who knows, we saw it in 2022. It's not all done.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to raise that in 2022 they were polished off inside 7 sessions, and they then got 4 COVID diagnoses in the group, and it felt like they were completely cooked, and they found a way to keep it all together when the country was up in arms as well more widely. So this team has got the muscle memory of doing that against Australia, but it does feel like different circumstances here. Dimith Karunaratne is crawling to the 100th Test milestone next week. Let's just hope he finds a way to make a contribution there in what I suspect will be his final Test match. Angelo Matthews, a decent chance it'll be his final Test as well. The old veteran, the old warhorse. He looked pretty good at times today, but as you say, it wasn't without risk. The 41 he made was laden with risk. So whether he has the ability to play the long innings these days against a high-quality attack, that's jury's out stuff. They will bring back Pathan Nasanka provided he's fit, which is great news because Nasanka was the man who led them to a famous victory at the Oval last year. And I think Milan Ratnyako would be the other player who my instinct is that as a sole seamer, because he can bat, that will help with their lower order batting issues. He made 71 on Test debut last year and has never let Sri Lanka down bowling seam up. So there's an option there if they choose to go to it. All right, Bharat, let's take a beat and go into the Final Word Hall of Fame for the final time in this Test match. It is the Final Word with Adam Collins and Bharat Sundaresan. We are here with the support of a lot of people. Mentioned CBUS, but Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. The work they've done on social justice cases over the years is profound. The amount of money they've collected on behalf of people who've been subject to mass wrongdoing in class actions is, I think it's over $4 billion, the most out of any law firm in Australia. I know that a lot of the work they do is in that space, and a lot of the work they do is about people in workplaces. So if you feel like you've been wronged and you feel like you need legal recourse and you feel like the legal system is unintelligible and difficult to interpret, well, Maurice Blackburn are there for you. They're there for working people, as they have been since 1919. All their details, as ever, are in our show notes, and they've been terrific supporters of what we're doing on the Final Word so far through the summer of 24-25, and long may it continue. Bharat, your Final Word moment of the day.
Oh, a few. I mean, so much happened today. Firstly, Dinesh Chandimal getting out twice in the second in the same session. On that. Okay, I'll leave that to you then.
No, that's all. I'll just jump in and say this much. Adam Morehouse is an outstanding statistician who does all of the work in the ACT. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Today was the 12th time a player has been dismissed twice in the same session. I like anything in Test cricket that's under sort of 30 odd.
Yeah, that counts.
That, given the sample size we're talking about here, but that includes Hanif Mohammed, for what it's worth. Farouk Engineer, Alan Knott, Salman Butt. DM Bravo's Darren Bravo, as opposed to Dwayne. Lorcan Tucker over here at Galle. Last two at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. Lorcan Tucker twice in a session here in 2023. So Jack Gregory.
Big names.
There's some names here. There are some names. Anyway, Dinesh Chandimal, he's a player, and he got dismissed twice in the same session today. So there's a nice little anchor for you, something rare. We saw that only 2 days ago with the century on debut for Australia.
Yes.
Something rare today.
But how many times has it happened where the same bowler got him out? I don't think we have stats on that yet.
Well, I can ask Adam.
Yeah,
if he can find
I'm sure Adam will find that out for us. Steve Smith and the fun he was having out there with the fields he was setting, Adam. I loved it. It is like a game of chess. It's like a game of Tetris he plays with his fielders. At times there were fielders in positions where you were wondering, how's the ball going to go there, Steve? Because remember there was a gully in Bo Webster, and behind him there was a deepish gully where Manas was there. Where I want to call that the Jayaswal, that position. Yeah.
Because that's who started this. They were doing it for him, and now they've gotten kind of addicted to it.
They have, and even for the spinners, the way he kept moving them around. And Manas was on his knees at a very close point. At one point, you could hear him on the stump mic saying, grab one off my head, boys. And then, because that's how close he was. If someone had played a cut, it would have just hit him on the helmet. And, not a great thing to want, but that just tells you how much he wants this team to win. Another one, a very Bharat one for you, Hall of Fame. Very early on today, I think probably the second over of the day's play, Usman Khawaja was down there on the boundary. The doctor ran out to him, gave him a pill, I don't know what it was for, and then gave him a banana. And I was very intrigued by his banana technique. You play a lot of cricket these days, Adam. So while you're fielding, if I gave you a banana, would you do the conventional peel, bite without touching the actual banana, because that can make your hand slippery? Or would you break a piece of banana, hold it in your hand and eat it? Because that's what Khawaja was doing. And I was very intrigued by that technique.
Right. Okay.
Well, what do you
Collages
think?
I would definitely be addressing it via the skin.
Yeah.
That's how I'd be going about it.
Yeah, because it
I'd
doesn't.
be keeping it in the skin.
Well,
you know that naturally bananas are eaten the other way. So when you see apes eating bananas in the wild,
Yeah.
they eat them from the bottom. Apparently, that's the way bananas are meant to be eaten.
Oh, really?
We're meant
Sorry,
to.
Uzi. Yeah.
No, I mean, as in from the very, you know how instinctively you peel it from the top.
Yeah, and then you go.
What I interpret to be the top. Apparently, we've been getting it wrong.
Oh,
Humans
no.
have gotten this wrong, and
Well.
there's a more, quite. There's a more elegant way of doing it, and the apes have got us covered once again.
Once again,
Once
they win.
again.
Yeah, it's like.
I love a banana though, so it's something
yeah.
we can take away.
There's always something to take away.
Yeah, there
right?
is.
It's all about
Jeffrey
technique.
Van der Sar I want to take away as well.
yes.
I want to take him in my luggage home. I want to take him everywhere I go. The way he gives it a rip, the way he really wants it so. I'm writing a poem about Jeffrey fucking
Yeah.
Van der Sar.
Why not?
Why not? That's how I feel about him right now. Let's write a song. Let's write a ballad.
I think we should.
I don't know. I just feel like this guy knows that his shelf life as a Test cricketer is a short one. It's a limited one, and he needs to make every opportunity count. And the way that he batted today, I know he was last wicket out, the ball after reaching 50, and that'll happen, I suppose, with a bit of a rush of blood. But to that point, he was faultless, and that included having to face an over from Mitch Stark, who was bombing him. You know, good on him.
Yeah.
I know he's been around a while. I know he's in the white ball teams, but I truly hope they give him an extended run as a Test spinner.
Yeah, I mean, he did everything right. He was better than Peters for sure. And honestly, he got more out of this pitch than even Prabhat Jayasuriya did. And you said it on commentary, when he got Bo Webster out with Australia in the 600s, the way he just celebrated
Yes.
it. That's what you want in a professional cricketer who's playing for this country. He had to wait a long time to make that Test debut. That was unexpected as well 3 years ago when we were here. He's then had to wait 3 more years to get his chance again. And I thought he bowled his heart out. And who knows, right? That first ball to Manas that he bowled, if it had hit off stump, we would have been talking about that ball for a long time. And yes, he did get Manas out maybe a few overs later. But you never know. That kind of breakthrough could have lifted Sri Lanka up. Anything could have happened. And with the bat, that was proper batting. He drove Mitchell Stark, hit line for 4 or 6, and he went after Kuhnemann. It was proper batting.
And speaking of leggies, just after Van der Sar Industries was dismissed, or just before actually, Alana King picked up the final wicket for Australia, which meant that she got 5, and the women won by an innings and 122. So an innings and 244 here at Galle, 242, at Galle, an innings and 122 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So, and finishing as close to each other, to each other as when Pat Cummins picked up the final wicket at Lahore just after Buddy Franklin kicked his 1,000th goal. So there's always a reference point when you want one, Baz.
Yes.
We were at that too together. All what feels like a long time ago, 3 years ago in Pakistan.
Oh yeah.
Right, that's us done for the first week of the Final Word Dailies here for the Warm Muralitharan Trophy. Muralitharan. I had a Sri Lankan say Muralitharan this week. Isn't it amazing that even now, 30 years on, Muralitharan.
Yeah, because that's I think some places they add the D. That's the right spelling because that's the way. If you pronounce it with the D, it makes life easier. Muralitharan. Yeah.
There you go. We'll be back for lots of things. We'll have story time. We'll have a weekly show. We'll have, We'll have things. We'll have things to do and stories to tell, as we always do. Thank you so much to our amazing patrons. Said it yesterday, will again. We want to catch Murali. Be part of that. If you like what we do on our dailies and the longer programming as well, make this your time to join us. Patreon.com/thefinalword. Help us get to 800 patrons. Help us reach Murali while we're in Sri Lanka. That would feel appropriate.
And if you are number 800, I will make sure Pragyan Oja gives you a call.
Yes.
How about that?
There we go. We can do this. These are the things that we can do with the network that Bharat Sundaresan has. Thank you, Baz. I'm Adam Collins. This has been The Final Word. Thank you to Maurice Blackburn and to CBUS too. We'll talk to you in a couple of days.